amid all the noise in our lives, we take this moment to sit together virtually, to give thanks for another day, to give thanks for all those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love, to give thanks for the gift of life. We know we are on our pilgrimage here, but a brief moment in time. Let us open ourselves here, now, to the process of becoming more whole, of living more fully, of giving and forgiving more freely, of understanding more completely the meaning of our lives here on this earth. These opening words are adapted from ones composed and originally offered by Tim Haley and are offered to you this Sunday morning as an invitation to open our minds as well as our hearts to understand more completely the meaning of our lives here on this earth.
Good morning. I'm Sally Lieberman, and my pronouns are she and her. Would you join me now as we light the chalice, the symbol of our free faith, and share our chalice lighting words as you know them or as you are learning them? In the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment, we gather this day. May the flame we now kindle be to us a symbol of the holiness we seek. And as we do each week, would you join me in our children's affirmation that reminds us what it means to be Unitarian Universalists? We are Unitarian Universalists, the Church of open mind, loving heart, and helping hands.
Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Reading, or UUCR. I'm Rob Craig Coleman, a member of the Worship Arts team and the Summer Services Coordinator. My pronouns are he, him, and his. Welcome to our worship service and welcome to our online church community. We welcome you to join with us as we seek to fulfill our mission to nurture and explore individual spirituality, build a committed and loving community, and to heal the world. As mentioned today, we are pleased to share our pulpit with the Reverend Ann Mason, Minister of First Parish UU of Lexington, Massachusetts. Reverend Mason, as well as our minister, Reverend Hank Peirce, are part of a collaborative for sharing pulpits during summer services across this region of our denomination. I think you will both be challenged and inspired by her sermon. If you're with us for the first time, a special welcome. Please check back to our webpage and look for the link. Click for more information about our virtual worship options during COVID-19. This link will lead you to much of what you need to make a broader and deeper connection here at UUCR. For example, you can sign up for our email newsletter, where you can get information about ongoing events and other news from the church. And in the newsletter, you can also get the link for our virtual coffee and conversation time that follows the service today and each week. On the webpage, you can also find contact information for Melissa Martin, our Member Services Coordinator, who can help you make more connections with UUCR. And finally, I want to tell you something. You are welcome here because we believe you belong here. Maybe it's just for the next hour, but we hope for longer. You are welcome here, and we are glad you are here, just as we are glad to be together this morning. And now look to the chat for the words to our opening hymn, number 38, Morning Has Broken.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird is spoken. praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Let us take a moment to be still, to be at rest, to quiet our restless minds and pause and take time to just breathe. As we breathe, let us join our hearts and minds together in prayerful meditation. Spirit of life, known by many names, yet by no name fully known, we gather today with hopes and dreams, with fears and wounds, with joys and sorrows. May our hopes and dreams find life. May our joys find wings. May our fears be calmed. May our wounds and sorrows be heard and healed. And in the spirit of the Orientalism we'll hear Reverend Mason speak of in just a moment, let us share together in Abraham's prayer as originally offered by Jan Tadeo. Beloved children of the oneness of many names, you who cover the land in numbers greater than the stars, I petition you, I pray to you, because you are the fruit of God's promise to the world, because each of you holds a piece of the truth of all that is, because the vision of beloved community needs each one of you. And this is what I pray. Show loving kindness to one another. Use wisely the unique gifts of your humanity, your free will, imagination, creativity, compassion, your knowledge, power of understanding, and awareness, all that is an image of the highest good. See the beauty in your cousin's eyes, the wisdom in your sibling's smile. Listen for the truth which is unspoken in each heart. Hold one another with tenderness and allow love to transcend fear, fear that all too often darkens your thoughts and poisons your heart. Come together, followers of Moses, Jesus, and Mohammed. Peace be upon them all. Embrace the children and followers of all the prophets who call us toward peace. All the seekers and people of goodwill adore all that emerges from the mystery of life. Treasure one another. Call forth wholeness for your fellow creatures. Protect and renew the sustenance for life, the earth, the air, the water. Hold the fire with gentleness. Use it wisely for growth and goodness. Come together from the deserts, the mountains, the wetlands, and the shores. Lift the veil of indifference. Learn to understand one another's plight and share in the beauty, wonder, joy, and awe of life. Love mercy and kindness and walk humbly with one another and with all creation. Love your neighbors as you love yourself. Give to others the full measure of your goodness, so they will give unto you the same. As you honor the covenant of your traditions, may you also covenant with all people of goodwill, a covenant of love, compassion, humility, generosity, gratitude, and celebration. May it always be so. Peace, salam, shalom, blessed be. Amen. Taking up an offering Giving of our treasure is a spiritual practice just like prayer or social justice work. Here at UUCR, this spiritual practice of giving is deepened by the sharing of our plate with organizations that give to those who need our support. In November 2019, we created the practice of giving half of each Sunday's collection to nonprofit organizations that share our UU values. It is a simple yet powerful way for each of us to live out our mission commitment to heal the world. Our Share the Plate recipient for the month of August is Improbable Players. Improbable Players is a theater company founded in 1984 that is dedicated to the prevention of substance use disorder. All of their shows are based on true stories, and all of their actors are in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. Improbable Players' mission is to set the stage for prevention by educating the public about addiction and recovery through dramatic performances and theater workshops. Their performances are uniquely impactful because their actors have lived the stories they perform. Their workshops give students the space and tools to combat social pressures and find coping strategies that work for them. Improbable Players strives to be a model of diversity and inclusion. The board, staff, actors, and volunteers reflect the demographics of the communities they serve, which allows them to excel at communicating the effects of substance use disorder. Please give generously to our virtual Sunday Share the Plate offering to support the work of Improbable Players and the mission of UUCR.
Our reading this morning is from Stranger Music by Marina Warner. Magic is not simply a matter of the occult or the esoteric, of astrology, Wicca, and Satanism. It follows processes inherent to human consciousness and connected to constructive and imaginative thought. The faculties of imagination, dream, projection, fantasy are bound up with the faculties of reasoning and essential to making the leap beyond the known into the unknown. At one pole, myth, magic is associated with poetic truth. At the other, the story of science, with inquiry and speculation. It was bound up with understanding physical forces in nature and led to technical and ingenuity and discoveries. Magical thinking structures the processes of imagination, and imagining something can, and sometimes must, precede the fact of the act. It has shaped many features of Western civilization. But its influence has been constantly disavowed since the Enlightenment, and its action and effects, consequently, misunderstood. The issues remain. How do we live with the intrinsic, problematic irrationality of our consciousnesses? How do we make a helpful distinction between religious adherence and an acknowledgement that myth and magic have their own logic and potential, independent of belief in higher powers?
Thank you so much, Ben. My sermon this morning is called The Magic of Imagination. When I was 19, I bought a carpet in the old market of Istanbul. My mother had been spending the year teaching in Turkey, and she invited my sister and I to travel there to visit. What an adventure it was. And to end up in Constantinople, city of dreams, of Turkish coffee, of mosques, and exotic beauty. As almost a rite of passage, my mother took us to the old bazaar, where after many, many cups of chai and many, many more rugs to look at, I finally decided on this beautiful prayer rug. I have valued it my entire life. In whichever dorm room, apartment, or house it has accompanied me. And I have examined it for hours, looking always for the one mistake which was woven in. For as the rug seller told me, only Allah is perfect. So a Muslim will always be sure to incorporate at least one mistake into their work. Carpets, whether magical or not, have always been a thing of beauty and mystery for me. And in the Middle East, they are used in many ways to delineate space. Rolled on the ground, they create ceremonial enclaves. Hung around a bed, they create privacy for intimate encounters. Pointed towards Mecca, they are prayer rugs rolled out 5 times a day. Remember the rugs on the battle green as we held the Muslim vigil a few years ago. These prayer rugs defined the vigil space and became the sacred space for the faithful to pray, present with us on the green. The carpet carves a private world for the user. It is a kind of portable sanctum. With so many ways to create meaning for the user, it is not surprising that the image of a flying carpet would become synonymous with the magical tales of the Arabian Nights. And as a carpet is woven together, so are the stories of this marvelous tale. The text and the textile weave a world of adventure to help the reader leave behind the daily struggles of everyday life. In the story we heard earlier, Prince Hussein finds a carpet in the bazaar. It is a tactile thing of great price. It has been woven, not conjured by a genie. It is for sale, with a value that can be known and paid for with human constructs. It may be magical, but in the story, it is real. And for the reader, as we hear of the prince transported on the carpet with his brothers to the sickbed of his beloved princess, the magic carpet transports us as well to the realm of love and desire, fantasy and wonder. Like one of the genies who stream out of a jar in the pillar of smoke, the tales of 1001 Nights, also called the Arabian Nights, has taken many forms and has answered to many masters. It has been seen in many collections with additions throughout its life, but it has no named author, no fixed table of content, no definitive birthday, and no one linguistic origin. In this collection, we read of Solomon, the wise king of both Hebrew and Muslim sacred literature. We see layers of antique Greek myths and stories which refer to locations in India, Persia, Iraq, Syria, and Egypt. The sacred folklore of the 3 world traditions, the 3 world religions of the ancient Mediterranean is present in yet another layer, as stories were carried by pilgrims, by traders, and by crusaders as they crossed the land and the sea. The first European translation was by the French Orientalist Antoine Galland. It came out in the early 1700s, and the stories were soon translated into English and published in the London News, where they became wildly popular. In England and France, Oriental fever swept through the salons and coffee houses, inspiring musicians, poets, painters with hundreds of imitations. Think of the influence at the time on European dress and on furniture. This was the time of the sofa, the brocade dressing gown, even coffee itself. In her book, Stranger Magic, Marina Werner Riley comments that the diaspora of the Arabian Nights does in fact resemble the triumphant progress of coffee as it multiplies and metamorphoses from brass thimbles of dark, thick syrup in Damascus and Istanbul and Cairo to today's hybrids like skinny latte and macchiato. Back in the 1730s, even Johann Sebastian Bach wrote a wonderful comic opera called The Coffee Cantata. Like our love for coffee, our love for stories of magic and adventure have crossed cultural boundaries. The central theme of the Arabian Nights is this: Scheherazade has been sentenced to die in the morning by the Sultan, who in a spirit of vengeance has vowed to marry a virgin every night and cut off her head in the morning. Now, I know that's a bit grim. Our heroine, however, volunteered to take the challenge, and she asks to bring her younger sister with her. She has a plan. On the fated first night, the younger sister will ask for a bedtime story, and Scheherazade will tell her one and will continue the telling until dawn. The Sultan, who has been listening, will want to know how the story ends, and so will stay her execution. And this continues with story after story for 1,001 nights, until finally the Sultan relents. Filled with magical creatures, flying carpets, seduction and trickery and violence, these stories captivated my imagination along with so many readers, painters, and filmmakers over the centuries. Like the Sultan, I too could not bear to leave a story unfinished. I first read these stories as a child, and I remember many forbidden moments with it buried under my covers as I read late into the night. So what is it about the Arabian Nights which so entranced the European mind of the Enlightenment? Marina Werner wonders if the magic within opened up a vista of spirits that did not command the religious belief of the European reader. The Islamic faith returns to jinns, which is Arabic for genie, as being in existence even before people were created. And the Bible, also written in the Middle East, refers to angels and archangels as mystical creatures. But the Western mind has been shaped to rationality, to rationally disregard such religious possibility. And many Unitarian Universalists are conditioned to reject the supernatural altogether. But the Orientalism of these stories and the exotic nature of them creates a psychological response for the Western reader. In her book, Werner explores how the Western audience finds magic more comfortable when it is wearing foreign dress. If the properties of lust, magic, and cruelty are contained in what is considered foreign culture, then the reader is allowed to enjoy these questionable human traits without assuming that lust, magic, and cruelty are part of oneself. The Western reader is thus protected from seeing their own humanity portrayed in such a way. I think it's important for us to move beyond this sense of separation. We need to be able to see our whole selves, our full humanity in these popular tales, even if we don't like what we see. Readers from all cultures have been equally drawn and repulsed by the vivid enchantment and the oh-so-human behavior of these tales. Now, with the rise and popularity of all kinds of magical stories, from the magic realism of Gabriela Garcia Marquez to Jorge Luis Borges or Salman Rushdie, through J.R.R. Tolkien to the Harry Potter series, Readers are drawn to the magical elements of creative fiction. Why is this? Is it simply a matter of escapism? But Warner thinks not. It is the flight of fancy through stories that defy rationality, that help the reader unblock the limits of reason itself. She says the faculties of imagination, dream, projection, and fantasy are bound up with the faculties of reasoning and are essential to making the leap beyond the known into the unknown. So, my friends, in these days of trial and tribulation, when we are striving to find new pathways of living, new ways to break the cycles of oppression and poverty, and new patterns of inclusive conversation, perhaps we need to give our tired, rational brains a break. Instead of opening the daily newspaper and delving into yet another analysis of our political craziness, perhaps you should get yourself a well-worn copy of the Tales of 1001 Nights. And when you fly away on a magic carpet, perhaps you will be able to see the world from a whole new perspective. And if you're very lucky, perhaps these tales of genies and tricksters, of love and passion, of jealousy and power, will help you get a new understanding of what it means to be human. And for me, this is the true religious quest. Amen, and blessed be.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we trust the wisdom in each of us, every color, every creed and kind, and we see our faces in each other's eyes, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we tell our story from deep inside, and we listen with a loving mind, and we hear our voices in each other's words, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when we share the silence of sacred space, and the God of our heart stirs within, and we feel the power of each other's faith, then our heart is in a holy place. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place.
As I extinguish our chalice, join with me in chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts. Our benediction today comes from Cynthia Landrum. We leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection, our concerns, our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith communities. Until we are together again, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be loving. Go in peace. Blessed be.